Denise, my friend of about, we met in about
20?
2007.
Yeah, it's been almost 20 years.
Been a long time,
Yeah,
about 17 years or so.
good ride.
Welcome finally to Be the Solution podcast. I
Thank
know I've been
you.
twisting your arms, but uh, none like the present. So Denise opened her company. Well, she's the Swick Real Estate Group, but Downsize Allies. And I want to jump right in,
Yeah,
Denise, and I want to
thank you.
discuss with you what Downsize Allies is and how it's different and how you're being the solution for the market.
So after, 3+ decades in the business, I just realized a real need in the market, and I'd been doing this, working with seniors in estates and probates since really heavily since about 2015. And then when the market kind of changed and 2020 slowed us down a bit, I really started going all in on this because I started seeing just the extensive need over just selling a house for people that I turned 55 this year, so my age and older, seniors. I got my AARP card, and started to put together this whole program where really we offer an innovative real estate solution for seniors, merging home repair, improvement, alternative financing, and to simplify the whole downsizing process, basically.
That's amazing, and a great concept. And obviously it's much needed since the boomers are the biggest generation of
Yeah.
home sellers in the marketplace, outside of obviously relocation and estate sales.
Yep.
So, what, from a standpoint of not from a business standpoint, but from what it does for you personally, because I know you've told me some stories,
Yeah.
and I'd love for you to share
Oh,
one
I
or
just
two
got
of
teared
them.
up when you said that. So as you know, we've been in real estate a long time, and we've both been, top agents, 1, 2, top 5 for years, doing hundreds of transactions a year. And so it's kind of like I checked that box, right? But what I get out of this is it's way more purposeful. It's the hugs, it's the thank you cards, it's the tears, it's seeing the seniors and their families really know that they have an option and they don't have to go this alone. And really being able to provide more than just being just a real estate agent. Like, we provide a complete consultative approach because I promise you, Maria, not every situation is the same. I mean, there's always a few, they've got to sell a house, right? That's basically what is the same. And from there, everything else is different. And so I just feel very blessed that, having done thousands of transactions over 35 years, I have the experience to navigate this really tumultuous time in a lot of cases for a lot of people. You can never start downsizing too soon, but it's even more than that. We get a lot of our calls, out of the blue from people that, I'm on my way from North Carolina. My dad had a stroke. We got to figure out what to do with the house, right? They're not even from here. Or my sister's on her way to pick up my parents to take them back to Georgia. We've got 2 weeks to figure everything out. And so in that amount of time, it's not a lot of time to find an auctioneer, to find a reputable realtor, to find a moving company, to find a clean out company, to find really what the value of your home is and is not. For years, I know every seller that had you come out, or like, come out and tell us what we need to do, Maria, to sell this house. Do we fix it up? Do we, what can we do to get more money out of it? Right. So we go in and we do that, and we're transparent with them. And then if there are improvements that they can make, we actually have a contracting company now that can go in and, do the job for them. So really it's just a seamless process, and they can, you know, decide what they want. We can buy the house, we can sell the house, we can fix it up, but we really look at every single situation as to what's best for the client, not just what's best for us.
Absolutely. And you had a story about a woman. I remember you telling me about her. She really didn't have anybody to help her.
Yeah. So I
Called
think the
you.
one that we're talking about is about a year and a half ago, Christmas 2022, she lost her husband Christmas Day. And is that the one in February? She contacted me, and I went over to list the house, and she didn't even know she had a mortgage on the house. She didn't know where her money was. She didn't know, hadn't told the attorney yet. So instead of just listing her house, I canceled the rest of my appointments that day and took her to the bank and took her to the attorney and really got her settled. And what's even more, interesting with that situation is, as you know, years ago when my mom passed, I had to take care of my uncle who was, mentally challenged, and she had a special needs daughter as well. And she was high functioning, but she wasn't, she was living out on her own in an apartment, but there really wasn't anything set up for her. And so um, I helped her realize that she could buy a condo for less than what her financial advisor was telling her to go rent for, which was insane. And she could buy a condo for, all in $500 a month after she, paid for it, just her HFEs and her taxes. Then she could, set up a trust and leave that to her daughter too. So, I mean, she's 83 or 84 years old, and her daughter's in her 40s. Like, there was what happens after she leaves, because they have no other family, So her daughter would have been like my uncle would have been if I hadn't have been there to step in. And I was able to get her the right people, get her home sold, get her financially comfortable into a condo, and leave a legacy for her daughter and set it up legally so that, well, I didn't do it, the attorneys did it, but so that she has a peace of mind now that she wouldn't have had, that her daughter is taken care of after she's gone. And there's enough money in the trust to pay for the taxes and insurance to infinity. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
it's those kind of solutions that we come up with for people that aren't just selling their house.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a lot of heavy lifting and doing all this.
There is. But to me, it's just natural.
Worth it.
It's totally worth it. We
You know,
have we delay a lot of times, selling the house to make sure that the client is getting the right advice and making the right moves. And that's not our job, because, I'm just a real estate agent broker, but we connect them with good people in order to help make those good financial decisions if they don't already have their own too.
It's all about being the solution.
Yep.
And I love that. That's why I wanted to have you on to discuss that today.
Thank you.
I think, so you started a construction company.
Yeah. By accident, but yeah, it's just one of those things that was a natural progression for what we do. And I'm very grateful because my business partner has been involved with 3 really big real tech companies that are part of what we need. And his last one is doing business under a different name now, but basically they manage the whole house inspection process and made it super simple for sellers. And they hired the contractors at punch list, and then the sellers and the realtors would call them. And so we're taking his punch list, not really his punch list, because it's not the same. It's different, but we're basically managing the whole construction process of the Guaranteed Max program, whatever we do for the client, so that they're not having to go out and find their own contractors, because contractors are just as hard or harder to find and trust than, real estate agents.
Well, I think most of us know how difficult it is to hire the right contractor.
Yeah.
So let's just say from start to finish. So somebody calls you, they're interested in selling their property. You go in, you're going to evaluate whether it's best for them to sell it as is. Here's what the price would be. Here's what the price is going to be if we rehab it. And here's what it's going to be if we do, I guess, some kind of minimal work in the property.
Yeah.
And so you're giving them choices.
Yeah. So we look at it both ways, or actually all 3 ways. Like, when I go in, I don't really I ask a lot of questions, like I try to figure out what's their solution. It's kind of like we've always been taught to pre-qualify our appointments. Like, what does the client need, so we can best figure out how to provide that solution just in normal real estate sales. So this is just on a little deeper level. And we go in and we look at the home, and if there are things that we can do that make sense, like we wouldn't want to have them spend 25,000 to get 25,000, like we want a significant return. So a recent example of that is I had a client who, I've done this for him twice actually. Unfortunately, he's lost 2 wives in my career with him selling real estate. I've known him like 25 years, but he had a really great house I sold to them about 12 years ago, but it had needed a lot of repairs even in that time. It had, a really strong cat odor. You know, we had to do basically a lot of work to it. So I could have probably sold it for like 550-ish as is, because it did need so much work that isn't normal for those homes. And I don't have to tell you that buyers discount stuff like that heavily, right? So we went in, and I think it was around 42,000 that we spent fixing up his melted siding from the grill and wood floors that, needed fixed from a leak, and just all these different kinds of things, plus painting and flooring. And I ended up selling that house for 665,000. So not only did he get his 42,000 back, but he got almost an extra, 75, well, I'm bad with math. He got about an extra 110,000 over what the as-is price would have been.
That's amazing. Now, how long did he have to wait for that?
It took us, well, that's the great part too, is, he was able to move into, he actually chose a 55 and older community, I call it Club Med for seniors, here in the area. I've got quite a few clients that have moved in there. They actually send me a lot of business, these communities. And he moved in there. And so we got him out. He bought new furniture. He moved in. Then I had my auction company and clean out company come in and get rid of everything for him that he didn't want to take. And then so the house was vacant. And so the whole process, I think, took about 2.5, almost 3 months to get it ready. But we managed the whole process, and he basically just paid for everything out of closing. So it was a real seamless process for him. We have, depending upon the property, we have different color palettes that we know sell. So we just kind of do plug and play, depending upon the price range and the market and so forth. So we've just been building these processes, or I've been building these processes for literally since around 2015.
Yeah.
So he's happy. You know what he said to me? This is what people don't realize, like in the senior industry, this is what makes it so gratifying. My business partner and I took him to lunch or dinner last time he was in town. And he said, he goes, I was living in that big house for so long, and it was like 5,500 square feet, right? It's this one man. And he said, and 4 cats. And he said, he goes, I was spending over $1,000 a month just keeping my landscaping up to be with the Joneses. He's like, and I hate landscaping. I never go outside. I like air conditioning. He says, now I'm done with that house. I'm spending $1,000 a month on wine, and I'm going to Napa this summer. And he was so excited. He's like, I can spend it on what I want to, basically, And so that's the big thing about downsizing is people just get really stuck where they are because change is hard, But once they get through that process, and we do everything we can to make it easy for them, on the other side of it is just a lot of life, a lot of joy, and a lot of happiness.
And that's so fulfilling. What's the average number of years that people live in their house as a senior, would you say?
I don't really have a statistic on that. Like I said, everyone's different. Some of these people have been in their homes. We just listed one, 35 years, 36 years. We sold one that they bought it. Or I sold one that she built it. She was 40 some years ago. She was a single lady. She was so cute. She built the home as a single lady. Had to put 20% down back then because single women weren't allowed to buy houses unless you had 20% down. Is that not crazy?
What year was that?
Huh?
What year was that?
Well, the house is 41, 42 years ago. So I don't know, 70s?
80s.
1984. Yeah, she had to put 20% down. So, so anyway, she lived there forever. I had another client who they had built the home in the 50s, and unfortunately, the wife had to go to an assisted living, and they had to go. She had to go on Medicaid, so the house was forced to sell. And they had been there 50 some years. They had a lot of stuff. She was a hoarder. We deal with, unfortunately, there's a lot of hoarding that we have to deal with as well. Like,
And was she a single woman?
no, this lady, it was her and her husband, and her daughter actually reached out to me. So the dad moved in with the daughter, and we sold the house because the mom was in assisted living. We have another one who recently the son lives in Pittsburgh, and his mother passed away here in the Dayton area, and the stepfather doesn't have any family, anybody over here, so he had to manage the move from from Dayton to Pittsburgh while he has a full-time job. So we handled everything for him as well.
Oh, that's a very fulfilling aspect of working in the real estate industry. I know you've seen a lot. You've been in the business 34 years, 35 years?
35 this year, yeah.
Congratulations. That
Thanks.
is quite a milestone. I know I just had my 20th in March, so got a lot of years on me, girl.
I know. It's crazy. And we're just still getting started.
We're just getting started. The next 20 will be different than the last 20 in a great way.
For sure.
So anyway, there's a lot of negativity around the real estate industry. I'll use that word. And I think also not just negativity, but I think misunderstanding.
Absolute.
About what it is that will be happening on August 17th. So Denise, why don't you tell listeners what's going on with that?
Ooh, are you ready for this?
Well, I'm certainly ready.
So this is a soapbox of mine. I put several videos out there about it, but really it doesn't come from the commission. That's not what is keeping it up. Like everyone, in my opinion, I mean, this is live, you asked me. My opinion is no one is getting the root cause of why these
this is
lawsuits.
Recorded.
Yeah. I've done a video on this, so it's already out there. But this is just my opinion, is nobody's getting to the root cause of why these commission lawsuits are happening and so forth. But it's been a vein of my existence for, probably 25 of my 35 years, because it's the independent contractor model in real estate where there's no accountability. You can't tell me what to do. It's not really treated in a lot of ways like a profession. I mean, there are a lot of professional agents out there like yourself and me and, thousands of others. But unfortunately, there's also the part-time looky-loo, stay-at-home mom, let's see if I can make it. They don't really go all in as a profession. They dip their toe in, and then they're not willing to do the hard work that it takes. It's kind of like, for years, everybody thinks you get a license, you get your picture on a business card, and all of a sudden you're infamous and going to make 6 figures a year. Well, the reality, as you know, is almost 90% of everybody who gets a license is out in 6 months, and another 90% in 2 years. And what's left are the people that just really don't take it as a profession, like it's the independent contractor model where brokerages for years, in order for them to survive, they work on numbers. So they have to have hundreds of agents doing very little in order to make bills, right? And then as time progressed, the agents started commanding more and more and more commission from their broker because things were getting more and more expensive. And then the broker just had to hire more and more and more agents. Well, when you've got that many agents on an independent contractor model, and ever since I've been licensed, Maria, you can do the numbers. The average agent for 30 years sells 4 to 5 homes per year. So if you were looking to hire an attorney or an accountant or any professional, would you be okay with if they did 4 or 5 tax returns a year, or they did 4 or 5 cases a year? Like, what is that? That is part-time pathetic hobbies. And unfortunately, the listing side of the business has been technically deemed to be the tougher side of the business because theoretically the sellers pay the commission. Yet in reality, I don't know any seller that pays a commission unless a buyer shows up, right? Commissions have always been negotiable 100%. There's always been the opportunity to go for sale by owner if you want. So go do it on your own.
Yeah.
There's
Commissions
always,
are baked into the sale.
yeah, and it's all negotiable. Everything's negotiable. So I heard, I stay out of those agent chat groups because just the
You might blow a gasket.
it makes me sick. It really does. And then the public's reading all this, and they're like, it's just perpetuating the bad behavior. I ultimately think that, they're talking about like the real estate commissions of what has kept prices up. That is absolutely malarkey, because what keeps prices up or down is supply and demand. It's easy, right? I mean, I got a D in economics, but I get A+ in that, right? So it really is supply and demand. And you and
As always.
we built our businesses in the tough market. If everybody remembers 08 to 15, 16, only I was in Dayton, Ohio, which it was worse before 08 because we lost all of GM, NCR, Delphi, and Meade. And Dayton was like, if Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or the hospitals or the universities left, we would have been like tumbleweeds rolling in our town. But there were houses here that now you buy for $100,000 that literally were $5,000. Yesterday, I looked at a 4-unit for somebody. They paid $200,000 for it in 2022. Just in 2016, that place sold for $15,500 in 16. So that's how bad we were, right? So, but the point is then not only were sellers having to pay commissions, but they were paying buyers' closing costs. They were paying, remember the AmeriDream and Nehemiah program, could pay their down payment. So buyers were getting everything for free. The sellers were, coming down on their price. There were short sales, foreclosures everywhere in the country. So prices were dropping like, weights to the bottom of the ocean, and they were paying everything. So it wasn't commission that were keeping prices up because prices were dropping. It was supply and demand. There was more for sale than there was buyers to buy it, right? So what I see potentially happening is in our area, and everyone talks about real estate as being one big thing. It's not. Every single market is different, like when I was selling houses for $98,000, you were selling them for $600,000. We didn't have 600.
Not quite. The average price in Philly is about just under 300.
Yeah, but back then, like there was a lot of big prices.
That's only because I did commercial and development.
Yeah, well, one of my, my good friend Cheryl in New Jersey, like, we would room together at our Mike Ferry events, and I would be, negotiating a $60,000 deal, and she's negotiating an $800,000 deal next to me, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm working just as hard. That's when Mike told me to move to Florida, but I was too stubborn. So anyhow, back to my point is I really believe that they don't realize what they've done with this whole concept of not paying buyers commissions. I agree that it should be negotiable. I agree. I mean, I've hated for years paying, some buyer agents out there too, because we have to do all the work. They don't know what they're doing.
Nobody said that sellers can't pay the commission.
Right. No, I never, yeah, I didn't mean that if I said that. What I meant is it's not being offered on the MLS, but what I know what I know is competition is what drives prices, right? So if a seller is not willing to offer, we didn't charge 4% and then 3%. We charge 7%, or we charge 6%, or we charge whatever we charge, right? Whatever's negotiated. And then we choose to pay a buyer broker out of what we charge the seller. That's always been that way, at least in our listing agreements, and it specifically spells that out. Where the weakness has been in is because agents who work with buyers have not been historically strong. It's like a buyer has to like you because they don't have to write a check out of their pocket to hire somebody, right? Yet
Correct.
they're paying it in their price of their home, so it's all relative. It's just
Right. So
where's the money
ultimately,
coming from?
the buyer. So who ultimately pays the commission?
Yeah, the buyer is the only one that's closing unless we're doing short sales, was the only one at closing that shows up with money, you
That's
know?
right.
And so I just think that it's the lack of education. I've been extremely upset with AR and the way that they've handled this or lack thereof for years. Like this is just a accumulation effect
Will you
of,
leave, Nor?
huh?
Will you leave, Nor?
Yeah, if I mean, I don't know. My board requires me. Like, I've never been to a NAR event. I've never been to an OAR event. I've pretty much been an independent on my own for a long time. Like, they've always been for the underdog, right? And I'm all about a hand up, but I'm not about a handout, right? And for a lot of people, it's been a handout, and I can totally understand, especially with the onset of the internet. Like I sold real estate, like right over there. I still have a 1989 MLS book, how I sold real estate for till 2001. Not lying. And that's, so I'm a fossil, right? But I mean, we've had buyers come to us that happily sign. I've always had buyer brokerage agreements signed. Like, how can you sign an agency agreement saying you're representing a buyer when you don't have a contract with a buyer? To me, that's just idiocy. So I've always had it signed. We've always told them we charge what we charge. And historically, we can negotiate it through the MLS. But if not, I've had buyers write me checks if the commission hasn't been, we have minimum commissions when prices were really low. So, that's what you get when you work with a professional, because you're
100%.
getting that service. And there's a reason why we're successful and 90% are out of the business, and another probably 50% will be out before the end of the year, which I thank God, because I think that levels up the whole playing field for sellers and buyers, because they'll be working with truly professional real estate agents or people that want to be better at what they do, instead of just, oh, the market's up, let me go make some quick money and sell a few houses and never even read the flipping contract.
You
Sorry.
No. It's all good. This is your be the solution, Denise.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you really think that 50% will be out of the business by the end of the year? That's a really big number.
No, I guess that's my prayers, but you know, it's like in anything. You can hire a bad contractor, you can hire a bad attorney, you can hire a bad realtor, but there's good ones out there too. But back to real quick, the reason that I am doing what I'm doing, Maria, is because literally you can make financial mistakes. You can put up with a lot more crap when you're 20. I bought my first house at 22, right? So you can put up with a lot more stuff and make mistakes in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. But when you start getting in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and God forbid, 80s and 90s, there's not as much time to make up for the financial loss or whatever that you had. And so, like when I was building my business, like 3 hours a day, I'd get on the phone and call expired listings. We had hundreds of them in Dayton, where other agents had hired them, or they had hired other agents they didn't sell. We'd call them, we'd get an appointment, we sell them. I literally sold thousands of them. It wasn't the easiest thing to do, as you know, to get on the phone and prospect, but I really felt that it was my job, that if I didn't get on the phone and at least try to get an appointment with them, that they would be stuck with some other schmuck that's not going to sell their house again while the prices are going
100%.
down, you know? And it,
100%.
you and I both did that. That's how we met, and it was tough. So I feel the same thing now with my senior group, and I'm a senior. I mean, heck, I'm 55. So when I say seniors, it's like really 50 up, right? It's
I will not accept that statement. Please retract it.
I have my AARP card. You want to see it? It gets good
I do
discounts.
not. I do not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hey, it's good discounts. But anyway, I believe that I need to do, again, this is just my belief for me, is I believe I need to do everything I can, like we did then with expired listings, to help people actually find the solutions of how to sell their home the best way for them. And most of the time, it's not the easiest way, but it is it's what will get it done, and it's being honest with people. And that's the part that is sadly in a lot of businesses, not just real estate, that honesty and integrity are two qualities that are just missing out of a lot of places right now.
Well, that's just, I think, a norm, unfortunately, in today's environment. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but with
we could
seniors,
go
like
down the rabbit. We can go down a rabbit hole on that one.
one of my clients, like last year, so 2022, 2023, like everyone kept saying it can't get any better than this, like prices can't keep going up. Well, until really this year, in our area anyway, prices we've gained 36% appreciation since 2018. That's a lot, right?
Yes, it
And
is.
in 5
Certainly.
years. And so we had one of the ladies that came to me. She's going to be on my website here really soon. I love her to death. Marge, she lost her husband also, and she was listed with another real estate agent in the hottest of the hot markets, right? You know how she chose her? She was her husband's nurse, for God's
Wow.
sakes. And she was on the market 60 days in 2023, last year. 2023, hot market. It was a ranch with a walkout basement, a hot property everybody wants in a hot location. But it was just the price, right? It's always price and motivation. But this agent, she's probably really great at being a nurse. She needs to stay in her lane. I mean, I can't do her job. Like, I would not be as good of a nurse as she is. Let me do mine and stay out of my lane, But we ended up, getting the house sold in the time frame because she wanted to move on her husband's date of death, which was July 6th. And I showed up and I said, if you do this and we do this, I promise you'll be in your place by the 6th of July. And she was. So,
Wow.
but that's a part of it.
I
Is,
love it. I love the business. I think it's a phenomenal idea, and I think it really serves the market as being the solution
it does.
with
Thank
that
you.
generation. So before we wrap up, Denise, okay, I have two questions for you. One,
Yeah.
guilty pleasure,
Guilty pleasure, ice cream,
ice cream.
without a doubt.
That was you answered that fast, so that really
I
was
know.
good.
I can't have it in my house. I
Okay.
eat a gallon of ice cream 1 teaspoon at a time in about a day.
Ooh, yikes.
It's just a little bit.
It's just a little bit. That's right. Okay. Second question. What are you most excited for your future?
Building this business and taking it national.
Whew. Man, that's a tall order.
Yeah,
How
it is.
exciting is that? Building the business and taking it national. Well, Denise, I know if you set your mind to it that you are going to do it. I wish you the best in that endeavor. I loved hearing about Downsize Allies and how you are the solution, and look forward to having you back on the show and talking about your whole real estate journey from when you started when you were 21 years old. So
Crazy.
thank you
Thank you
so
very
much, my
much.
friend. I
I
appreciate
appreciate you.
you.
I love you. Mwah.
And how do people reach you if they want to give a referral to
Oh,
you in Dayton, Ohio?
yeah. So you can go to downsizeallies.com and check out our website. You can get a hold of me it's just solutions@downsizeallies.com, or my personal direct line is 937-619-7454. And that really is my personal direct line that you can get a hold of me. So you can email me, call me. Texting me and calling me is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me direct, but you can go through the website, my email, or my direct personal line.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.